What sets the Mattress Direct experience apart, you think, from others? Or what is it that you do really well with that in-store experience?
The problems is when you are buying a mattress online, you're looking at a big fluffy square, and the only really deciding factor is how fast can I get it and what's the price. For a customer who does have backaches or doesn't sleep well or is really concerned with their health and the quality of their life, coming into a store and really learning about the products and figure out which one fits me the best, we're very good at that.
Welcome into the Independent Thinking Podcast. This is your host, Rob Stott. We all get into this business, the independent retail business, for one reason or another. And it's either, I'm born into it, I have a passion for it, fall into so many reasons we've heard on this podcast. And when it comes to Lee Burns, the CEO and founder of Mattress Direct, it's something that never really crossed his mind. But the more time he spent in this industry and seeing the owners that were out there, it's like, hey, maybe I could do that too, and goes about it. Founds a store, a Mattress Direct location in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in 2001, and here we are 23 years later, and it's grown into really an impressive business that Lee and the team there at Mattress Direct have built into quite the powerhouse in the southeast region of this country, and over a dozen locations across 2 states, and doing it well, and have a strong strategy behind them that has enabled them to grow and be successful today. And, sitting down and talking with Lee for this episode, you kind of come to learn just it's his approach in general, I think, that sets that business apart, and his willingness to step outside the box and try things and experiment with the business and see what works and what doesn't, and when it doesn't work, moving on, having the wherewithal to move on quickly to the next thing, and when it does work, really leaning into the service or whatever it might be that they've found success with, and maximizing the capabilities there. And that's been the case. We dive in specifically with Lee when it comes to their habits around consumer financing and payment, even as a business, and the way they are helping customers across the spectrum be able to, purchase product through their stores and do so in a way that's right for that customer. And, they've done a great job with it, from, having different services available on their website to their approach as a sales team, having those conversations around financing. And then, when they have, open and available credit, leaning into those opportunities to drive customers back into their stores to make purchases and spend dollars with the Mattress Direct locations around their area. So really cool conversation, lots to learn from. Lee, obviously a very intelligent individual, and has a great team behind him that has helped him realize that success. So excited to share that here on the podcast this week. So let's dive into it. This is Lee Burns, CEO and founder of Mattress Direct, here on the Independent Thinking Podcast. All right, we are back on the Independent Thinking Podcast, and pleased and excited to be joined by Mr. Lee Burns of Mattress Direct, founder and owner of Mattress Direct, from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Is that right? Where you're coming in from?
Yeah, I'm at home right now in Baton Rouge.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and sitting down for a podcast, and awesome story I'm looking forward to diving into with you, and kind of the background on Mattress Direct and some of the other things you guys have going on. But we'll start at how are you? How's business today?
I'm good. We're a couple of days out from Memorial Day, and
Yeah.
so we've been in full-on prep mode. So I'll be in 5 stores tomorrow, just making sure we're geared up and ready and clean, and products on the floor and everything signed, and best foot forward before the weekend cranks off.
Yeah, it's the retail calendar never slows down, does it?
It doesn't. No, this is probably 30 something Memorial Days in a row for me, and so it's still exciting though. It's fun. It's fun when you have a lot of customers coming in and you get to interact with a lot of people, and so it's kind of why we do what we do.
I have to ask, 23 years, is that right? Come in June, right? Actually, you guys
Yeah.
were June 2001, so 23 years ago. Do you expect to be sitting here, having to visit 5 stores with, Memorial Day weekend ahead of you?
Yeah, no, and so it's been 23 years with Mattress Direct, and then I was with Serta Mattress for about 3 years prior to that, and then I worked for a furniture store for about 3 years, and then I was with a department store before that. So that's the reason I said over 30 years
Yeah.
of Memorial Day weekends. When I was working at Olin's Furniture in our market 30 years ago, uh, I was out front putting out a banner right before the weekend. And so now every weekend, I have a store right across the street now that we own. And so
Wow.
every Memorial Day, I find myself out there putting on a banner. And I'm like, after 30 years of putting banners
It's
up on this road, you'd think I'd be smart enough to not have to keep putting the banners up. But clearly I'm not. I'm still out there putting out the banners. So,
creature of habit,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
No.
banners work, you know?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I give you the chance, dive into that origin. I love hearing the origin stories of our members and just people in retail in general because it's I feel like everyone for as similar as the practices are in getting into this business, like everyone has a different reason or a different thing that like the bug that bit them, what caused that to happen. What was it for you? What made you want to kind of set out on your own and I knew you to open a store. What was sort of the impetus for you to want to go do that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. What's funny is I'm looking in the camera and I see this and I see the gray and I didn't have any of that. So I think when we started out, you weren't really thinking about, will I have some stores or will we even be in business 20 years from now? You're really opening and just going, can we get to next year? And I think that's been the 20 years for us has been just every year, how do we get a little better and how do we get to next year and keep growing? You don't really have the ability to look too forward out. But yeah, like I said, I started out at a department store. I walked into the department store to sell TVs because that's what I wanted to do is Christmas help. And the lady that interviewed with me had just hired a couple of my buddies, and she said, "We're full, but I could put you in furniture and bedding." And I tried to leave. I tried to walk out the door, and she said, "Well, no, no, let me show you how much they make." And she showed me a pay stub, and they were commission employees. And when I saw it, I was
Mm.
flabbergasted. I was like, "Oh, hold on, I can do that." And so she stuck me in the furniture department, and the furniture salespeople ran me off to the bedding department because they didn't want to sell furniture. And I found out very quickly that the Serta or Simmons rep, when they came by, would buy me lunch if I kept the department looking good. And so, it was pretty simple. And so I started selling mattresses and just really enjoyed it. And from there, I went to work at a furniture company and did that for a number of years. But always kind of gravitated towards mattresses for some reason. I enjoyed
Mm.
it. I found that I could learn about them and people would appreciate it. And as a younger guy selling, a lot of times when you're selling furniture, it's a little harder. It's a little more decor.
Mm.
It's a little more, do they trust you? But with mattresses, if you know the specs, they seem to trust you. So, I did well in bedding. And so, I guess I was about 3 years in. I was lucky enough. There was a guy working for Serta Mattress who owned his own business previous to that. He owned a bedding factory, went to work for
Okay.
Serta,
Yep.
and he helped me get my job at Serta. And so when I was working for him, his name's Oliver. He had told me about how he owned his own sleep shop, and he was way ahead of his time. Ran a really successful business, sold it, and he would just tell me all about it. And so, and then all of a sudden, you're the Serta guy, and you're calling on a bunch of really small stores,
Right.
and you're realizing this isn't that far fetched, right?
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
walking into this little town and I'm going into a furniture store. I'm in another town. I'm going into a low mattress store. You're meeting all these family run businesses, and something that feels so far fetched, like owning your own business, doesn't seem that far fetched anymore
Yeah.
because you're meeting people who are in these communities who are doing it. And so, kind of some light bulbs start going off. You start realizing, well, hold on, maybe I can do it too.
No, that's awesome. It's something that, as like I said, as different as the backgrounds are, something I am finding the more people I talk to, there's always that like one individual, right? Someone that whether it's a mentor, just a chance meeting, that you can kind of lean into and that I don't know if it's like the kick in the pants that makes you think it or just gets you into the space, but just someone that it's almost like that extra hero of the story, right? That
Yeah.
pushes you kind of in the direction you didn't know you wanted to go.
Yeah, for sure. His name was Oliver Kaluna, and he, I guess 10 years ago, I'm 50 now. So when I was 40, I had gotten this award called 40 Under 40, and they said you can bring your mentor. And so I brought him, and he was sitting down talking about parents and some people, and he would tell you, he goes, I would jump in the car with Lee and we'd be driving, and he would wear me out asking me questions. And I think that's true. I was very
Yeah.
inquisitive and I was always asking a ton of questions, but he was the one guy that was willing to give the answers. he would
Yeah.
just tell you how it was, and he would be very honest with the information. And so, definitely indebted to him.
Any one, I'm sure there's asking questions, you get a million pieces of advice. Any one thing that stands out from him?
What's funny is he would always talk about him and his wife and how they work together in the business. And so I always found that interesting, right?
Yeah.
I think I realized early on when I was at Serta that the only way I was going to grow with that company was to move out of state. And I'm a Louisiana guy. I like where I live. I like my city. And so I had no interest in moving. And so a lot of times if you're in that rep world, if you're going to move up,
Yeah.
you gotta move.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I think we just made a decision. We're going to stay right here because we like our community. And so then it becomes, well, how do I grow in this space? And owning our own business was the only way that you could really do it and control your destiny. So
No, that's awesome. So talk about the kind of birth story of Mattress Direct. How does it get going and off the ground? And what do you remember from those early years?
yeah, so there's in our industry, there's probably a lot of people that will know American Mattress over in Chicago or
Yep.
Best Mattress over in Vegas. And then they'll probably have heard of America's Mattress, which was the franchising or the
Yep.
licensing that Serta was doing. So I'd worked for Serta for about 3 years, and I had gone to a furniture company and put together a business plan for them to open sleep shops, which was kind of the trend at the time. And they passed on it. And then I went to Serta and said, "Can I do it?" And they said, "Well, you don't have any money," which was a very true statement. And so I felt like my path had kind of run its course. And so I left Serta Mattress. And then about 90 days later, I came back to them and said, "I really want to open a store." And a guy named Scott Montague put me in touch with, he was the sales manager at the time, used to be my boss. He put me in touch with some people, and they were coming up with the concept America's Mattress.
Hmm.
They didn't have anything formalized. It was just kind of, this is the concept that we're thinking, which was locally owned businesses to follow a similar path that Best Mattress in
Yeah.
Vegas and American up in Chicago had followed. And so we did a 2-page agreement and opened the store up. And that was June 11th when we opened our first store.
Yeah.
And there was a sleep shop over in Lafayette that had been around for about 10, 15 years, and it went out of business. And so we opened up our second store within 90 days. In
Wow.
fact, we signed the lease, and then September 11th happened before we opened. And so when
Jeez.
September 11th
Yeah.
happened, we thought, like, what are we doing? Why did we sign the second lease? We're only 90 days into the business. And but it's 20 some years into that store, and it's one of our top stores. So I'm glad
Wow.
we did it. It was a quick move, and but it was the right one. And so we ended up with 2 stores, and we ran the 2 stores for a couple of years. And then about 2.5 years in, we were getting ready to open our third location. We really took that 2 years to figure out our concept. Like we had opened, but then you're still kind of going, okay, what's
Right.
working?
Right.
We were running paper tickets. We had moved to computer invoicing, gone from delivering out of my pickup truck to actually delivering in a delivery truck.
Yep.
So somewhat becoming a real business
Getting your feet under you. Yeah.
versus just a guy delivering out the back of his pickup. And so about 2 years in, we're opening our third location, and then Serta came to us, and there was a sleep shop in New Orleans that had gone from 5 stores to 2, and it was about to completely go out of business. And they offered us the market, and they offered us those 2 stores.
Wow.
So I partnered with a very good friend that I was in high school with, knew from college. He came in with me, and we moved into New Orleans. That was I think year 2, year 2.5, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And so we went from 2 stores to 5 stores very quickly,
Do you know?
which was painful.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. So do you think the confidence of them to come to you, is that knowing the people and like the relationship, or do you think it was something about early success that you guys were having that gave them that confidence to come to you?
Yeah, when we started, 23 years ago, most sleep shops were just throwing beds on the floor and trying to sell them. And because of my sort of upbringing, I understood a little more of merchandising and how
Yeah.
to take a customer, instead of try to sell them a $3.99, sell them a $5.99. Instead of a $5.99, try to sell them a $9.99. And so we set our floor and merchandised our floor, and I think that gave us a lot of success. We were very committed to advertising. And at that point, we were sort of only, and I think it worked really well for us for a
Yeah.
while. Once Tempur-Pedic came on, then that was a game changer in our industry. And so then we brought on Tempur-Pedic, and then, of course, sort of Simmons merged. And so we brought on Simmons, and now we're really a multi-vendor floor. But those early days of being Serta only, I think were very good to us because of the relationships we formed with Serta. We were important to that one vendor.
Hmm.
But I do think we also, we had success. I mean, our first two stores were doing very well. They saw the second store was one that had gone out of business, and we had re
Yeah.
relaunched it. And then I think when these stores were going down, it was actually their third attempt at service stores in New Orleans. And so I
Wow.
think they really didn't want to see the stores close. They knew there were good locations. And so I think it worked out well for everybody.
Gotcha. So now you mentioned, but before I cut you off there, the jump to five, was it five locations total?
Yeah, yeah.
So
So we
yeah,
went from two stores to five stores pretty quickly. And, it's interesting. There's these different speed bumps that you go through when you're growing a business. And five stores was a tough one because when we had one store, we went to two, you could see the leveling of our sales, right? If one store had a
yeah,
bad month and one had a good store, there's some leveling that was happening. Um, when you went to five, we couldn't hire anybody, right? So we didn't have enough money to have a delivery manager or a customer service person or an advertising. And so you're still doing all those functions, but then you're
right.
spread between five stores. So I think when we got to 7 or 8 stores is where we were able to bring on a little more help and kind of balance some of the workload a little bit more. But
Gotcha.
it was interesting. I think we got up to about 7, 8 stores somewhere in there. Then Katrina happened, which was the
Yeah.
massive hurricane that hit New
Yep.
Orleans. It put over half our stores out of business for a period of
Wow.
time, and that was in
S-
2009,
s-
maybe.
I was gonna say
No,
six,
2005,
five,
2006,
six.
right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, it's just been slow and steady growth since then. We're
Yeah.
sitting at 17 stores now. We've had more stores. We used to be in a few more markets. And I think I think for every business owner, you got to figure out what you can control. Like what's the right mix for you? Some people it's
Yeah.
3 stores, some people it's 103 stores, right? And depends on the market you're in. But for us right now, we're in multiple markets. We're about 2.5 hours from any store, the furthest
Mhm.
out, 17 locations, but we can do it all out of one DC. And so it's a
Yeah.
good mix for us.
Well, the size you mentioned now, is that something you got? Are you like set on in kind of a two-part question? I'll start with the locations of them. Is that obviously strategic? You're so far away from one, like they're each a certain amount of space in between. Are you guys? Yeah, you're obviously looking at that as you open those new stores, new locations.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you become a multi-store operation, you've got to look at your DC and you've got to look at your advertising. And so if you're going into a market that you've got to advertise in, but you can only have one store, does it make a lot of financial sense? So you want to have as many stores in a market advertising as you can, and then you've got to be able to deliver it without having multiple DCs. So when we first launched, we were running 4 different DCs, and it's
Wow.
very hard to control that.
Yeah.
And so when we got down to one DC, but we run longer runs, it was a better operational plan for us. But we didn't know that until we did it, right?
Right.
And the advertising is really hard too. Like we had gotten up to over 20 stores, but we were in a bunch of little small markets that didn't necessarily feed off the markets we're already in. So you're just
Right.
spending a ton of additional ad dollars for 1 or 2 stores. And one thing I think that hurts sometimes when you're a business owner is you grow sometimes just to grow.
Yeah.
I've got a
Yeah.
24-year-old son, and the question he gets asked most often is, when are you getting married? And I told him, I said, the problem is when you answer that for everybody, the next question is, when are you going to have
You
a
had a
kid?
kid. Yeah.
Right. And as a
Yep.
business owner, it's the same thing. Like everyone thinks the only way to grow is to add stores. But
Yeah.
but really the core concept really doesn't need to be store growth. It needs to be profitability.
Mhm.
Are you making money? Are you
Right.
successful with what you already have? And so, we kept growing to grow. And at some point, the only people that were making money was the government from tax, the landlord, and the vendors,
Mhm.
And so when we backed it down, we actually started making more money.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to look at is what's the profitability of your business? That's the
Right.
key indicator.
And that actually helps address what I was going to ask next, is about that growth. Is it something that is, you guys are looking to continue it, or it sounds like, if it makes sense, it's one of those things, if it makes sense, you'll consider it. But for right now, I love that approach that you mentioned about, you can grow, but you don't want to grow just to grow. Like you want to make
Yeah.
sure it makes sense and is going to obviously have benefit to the business on top of everyone else that you mentioned in there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very important if you're going to have a brick and mortar store today that you're delivering a great customer experience. They could buy a mattress online. 40% of beds are bought online. So, there's no point in doing it unless you can really deliver a great experience. And
Right.
and that is a lot of training and the staffing is very tough.
Hmm.
And so for us, we'll add stores as it makes sense. but we're not looking to necessarily grow into a market just to grow into a new market.
Right. To your point there, about, shoring up that customer experience and what, you guys kind of do different. What sets the Mattress Direct experience apart, you think, from others, or what is it that you do really well with that in-store experience?
Yeah, for sure. I think we use a system called Bed Match, which is a Kingsdown product that gives us the ability to use technology to help customer find the right mattress. We're not the only one doing it, but in our marketplace, it is a very unique indicator. So when a customer comes into our store, we lay down on this mattress. It does the pressure mapping. It allows us to ask a lot of questions and it helps us use technology to go from 40 beds to 5 beds very quickly. From there, we're going to introduce you to hybrids or to traditional or to memory foam beds. But we use something called a sleep assessment, and our sleep assessment allows us to get a lot of information about the guest. How are you sleeping? What's going on with your body? What did you not like about your old mattress? And from there, we can hopefully find the right mattress the first time. That's one of, I think, the problems is when you are buying a mattress online, you're looking at a big fluffy square, and the only really deciding factor is how fast can I get it and what's the price?
Right.
And so with it, but in that, you should expect a 20% return rate, right? You're going to return that bed a lot and you're not going to find the right one. So if you have no back aches and you never had a problem sleeping and you can sleep on the floor, that may be the right option. But
Right.
for a customer who, does have back aches or doesn't sleep well or is really concerned with their health and the quality of their life, then coming into a store and really learning about the products and figure out which one fits me the best, we're very good at that. For customers
Yeah.
who want better sleep, and they understand. I mean, research is showing that quality of life and sleep are so tied into one another. And so, I've got a tracker on my arm that
Yep.
tells me the quality of my sleep, how much deep sleep, how much REM sleep am I getting, how many hours sleep am I getting. All of that really equates to a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um, and so customers that come into our stores, they're going to find the right mattress the first time. They're not going to have us coming back into their house a second time for that comfort guarantee because we're going to land on the right bed most times that first time. And
Yeah.
they're going to get a better quality sleep out of it.
No, that's awesome. And I have to imagine too, the tools like that, not that they make it easier necessarily, but it helps at least drive a conversation between that customer and the associate in the store, right? So instead of, trying to, not to say that there's like a lost art to sales today, but like when you have something like that, a tool you can lean on that helps sort of navigate those conversations and get the customer thinking, sort of in the same vein that you would as an expert on the product. It makes it a little bit easier to talk with them and kind of speak their language too to help them understand.
Yeah, exactly right. It's funny. I was with my son this past week trying to buy a new vehicle, or really a used vehicle. And, we're kind of negotiating a price with the guy. And he looked at me and he goes, "Look, I'm a used car salesman. I know you're not going to believe me."
Right.
And then he tried to explain his point. What's interesting is when I work in our stores, I very rarely have people act like I'm a salesperson, right? And that's by design. I mean, really, that's not my goal is not to be a salesperson, but to help you find the right product for yourself. And so I'm not opposing you. I'm coming alongside you to help you
Yeah.
navigate what is a very confusing product category. And we have people all the time that when they leave the store, they'll tell us, "I was dreading buying a mattress, and there is
Hmm.
nothing harder to buy than a mattress, but you made it very easy." And so I think hopefully that's what we're doing in our stores is making it a little easier to find the mattress and not, I think at times we push the customers out the door, not to a competitor, but just to not even buy because it is so confusing and so tough to know what's the right choice. And these are not inexpensive products anymore.
Right.
A lot of times they're in the store and they're looking at a $10,000 product
Hmm.
and they're willing to spend it, by the way, if it's going to change the way they sleep.
Right. Right. I think that, you mentioned the, kind of the testament or almost testimonial of the customer that, it's not what they expect. That's almost like what you wanna hear, right? Like, they
Yeah.
came in with a certain expectation and you just knocked it out of the park as a business and, a team there for sure at Mattress Direct, and, another thing you mentioned there, obviously, those price points, something else I know you guys have done well, to help with that and sort of alleviate on behalf of the customer is lean into, those financing options that are out there. So I wanna give you the chance to Talk about that. What role has consumer financing played? And I know you guys have done a lot to, kind of work it into what you do as a business as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think you've got to offer multiple options, right? So I don't think one thing fits everybody. Some people, they've got a really good credit score and they want a lot of no interest, and that's what fits them. Some customers, they just want, maybe 6 months to a year worth of financing until they move into their house or something's going on. And then some people, they don't have great credit and they're trying to rebuild their credit. And then, there's a ton of rent-to-own stores around us, and people are buying mattresses there too. So we don't want to lose that customer. So that's where a Progressive or something would fit. So I think you've got to offer a lot of options. And that's where generally, my team will, uh, at some point in the sale, as a trying to learn more about the customer, we're going to ask them, is financing an option that they want to look at? Uh, and just kind of put it out there and see what they're thinking, and maybe present it with we have 12, 24 months no interest financing. If you get approved, is that something you may be interested in? And you'll be interested because some people will go, well, I thought you had 60 months. Well, that's wonderful. That just tells you that they need financing, right? That's a buying
Yeah.
sign. And so that's good. And some people will be like, I don't need financing. That's a buying sign as well. Hey, I'm paying
Yeah.
cash. That's
Right.
great. Some people immediately tell us, man, I want the points. I'll put it on the credit card. And that's okay too. So, you just got to put the information out there and figure out what fits the guest best. We, through our POS system, which is Storus,
Mhm.
we do a waterfall financing. So once we put the customer's information in, we're able to take them from Wells Fargo to Tower Loan, and from Tower Loan to Progressive. And so hopefully we're giving everybody some option of financing that fits where they are in life and what fits them the best.
No, I love that. And something to now, was that always was it always an easy pitch for your sales associates, or that's something that, do you guys do any training around that to make sure they're having those conversations the right way?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, first off, we do a lot of training on don't just throw out 60 months for no reason, right? It's
Right.
very
Yeah.
expensive. And so we want to maybe start a little lower if we can. We want to use it as a closing tool. And
Mhm.
so, we train on that. And then we also train, once you get them approved, if you did your job really well and you showed them adjustables and you showed them sheets and you showed them pillows, and maybe they decided to go with a mattress, and then they get approved and the approval is higher than what they need, hey, there's an opportunity here. You were looking at 24 months, but if you had that adjustable bed, we might be able to get 36 months and
Yep.
your note may actually go down. And so a lot of times people will take advantage of that, right? Because it's the opportunity to, you know, they already wanted the adjustable. We showed it to them, but they didn't think they could afford it. And then once we do the financing, they realize, hey, it's a lot more affordable than I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then why wait? Like, why get the mattress and come back 2 years later to get the adjustable? Let's go ahead and start enjoying it today.
Mhm.
So, there's an opportunity there. It takes a lot of training, and I will say we're always working on it. We're not perfect by any means, but we're always trying to get better at it.
No, that's awesome. And now too, have you how about the follow-up, like down the line with that customer? Is there any opportunities presented to you as a business there with these options where, hey, it's been however many years since you visited the store, a chance to follow up with that customer?
Yeah, so there's what they call an open to buy. And so an open to buy is an opportunity to reach out to a customer who has used financing with you before, and right. And
Yeah.
so it's a great opportunity. Maybe when they were in the store, they were thinking about guest bedrooms. Maybe they were thinking about adjustables. Maybe they bought their kid a bed, but now they need to get themselves a bed. So open to buys are a great
Yep.
campaign. You can get the spreadsheets of who those customers are and reach out to them, but then you can also do mailers or
Yeah.
different things. That's generally a kind of an annual event that we'll do. So once a year, we'll kind of do a big open to buy push where we're really trying to communicate with that guest.
Yep.
And then a lot of the companies, whether it's Synchrony or Wells, they'll give the customer the card, and then in the bill, they're also communicating with the guest to come back in. So, there's some opportunity to stay in front of the guest there, and try to keep that communication line open.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned the different ways customers like to shop. I think you guys are a recent a recent sign on with the PayPal program. Did you guys just recently add PayPal to your websites, or it's been on your website?
Yeah, so we added PayPal to our website probably about a year ago.
Okay.
Our website was it was a credit card function.
Mhm.
and we added PayPal. And it's interesting, the day we changed to PayPal, we've not taken a credit card on the website since we added PayPal.
Oh,
In
wow.
other
Yeah.
words, if a customer goes on your site and they have the ability to either pay through PayPal or to put all their own credit card information in, they would rather
Right.
do PayPal,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Simplicity.
one-click button. It's
Yeah.
simple. And I think that's how we all shop, right? I mean, why do people use Amazon? You use Amazon because you find it, you hit a button and it ships. You don't have to put all that information in every time.
Right.
It's a little frustrating sometimes. I'll go to a website, maybe say Yeti, and I'll find the Yeti that I want, but then I got to go put all that information in. But I
Yeah.
can go to Amazon and get it for the exact same price and hit one button and it comes. And maybe that's lazy, but it is what it is.
Hey,
So
that's consumer shopping today, right? That's just
that's right.
how.
And so I think PayPal gives you the ability to do that for your customer, where they can do one-click shopping, they can check out a whole lot faster. And so, yeah, I've told your team this before. The day that we put PayPal on the website, we have not taken a credit card manually since, not
Wow.
one. And that's just consumer driven. That's nothing we
Yeah.
did. It was just that's what the customers want. Both options are available. And then we have added Affirm to our website as well.
Hmm.
And I believe, and this is something I'm actually going to make myself a note on. I believe PayPal is now offering an Affirm-like service.
Yeah. PayPal paying for. I think they
Yeah,
call it.
and
Yeah.
I think we need to look into that. So we added Affirm primarily because on the website it gives you the ability to show them a lower payment, right?
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
quickly. So, if the item is $1,000, but I can pay it in three payments of $333, it just seems a lot more affordable. And interesting enough, a lot of younger people really like it because they don't have to put on a credit card. They can just make these three payments or make these four payments. They know it's going to come out their checking. And so it is a younger demographic that I think who is driven towards this. And so we do get some affirms.
Yeah.
We get a whole lot more PayPals, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we do get affirms. And I think the PayPal piece they have like that would be very interesting to look into.
The just kind of, I think you mentioned this at the top of just this portion of the discussion, but like the mindset you have as an owner to pursue all these different options. Talk about your approach to that and why you think it's important and kind of what other retailers might be able to learn from it.
So are you talking about payment category or just in
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
like
just like payments.
everything?
I mean, for everything from like PayPal, having PayPal on your site to the financing out. Like there's a lot of different ways to engage from a payment perspective with Mattress Direct, and
Yeah.
um, for some owners out there, I imagine thinking about all that might be a little overwhelming to them. But like to me, what it screams is opportunity, and having instead of like one door you got to walk the customer through, there's like 17 doors now that you have to potentially close that sale.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first thing is if you're going to spend all the money to advertise, and then you're going to have them come into your door and you're going to spend an hour trying to show them a mattress, last thing you want to do is walk them because you don't take American Express or because, you're not willing to do financing. And, you could look at it and go, man, financing is very expensive. And it is, but so is advertising and so is your staff's time. And so would you throw another couple of percentage points towards closing a deal? And you really would. So, from our standpoint, that's probably a part of it. The other one is I think our team is always keeping us abreast of what's in the marketplace and what's happening. So part of it's just a competitive piece. You're just trying to be ahead of it. And quite frankly, every now and then be a leader in it when you can. And try these new things. We've tried Affirm in the stores, we've tried PayPal in the stores, and customers haven't really gravitated towards that as much. They love Apple Pay. We do a lot of
Yeah.
Apple Pay in the store. A lot of just walking with a credit card and hitting it on the button, even with their phones and
Yep.
paying. So you've got to have the right terminals in there. I mean, people are looking for that, and so that's where you can't really look at just the mattress industry. You got to look at what are they experiencing when they walk into their favorite stores across your community. Whether it's a Walgreens or a Walmart or a Home Depot, and that becomes their expectation. They don't shop for a mattress but once every 7 to 10 years. But when they walk in our stores, they expect it to be as friendly and as easy to operate as a Home Depot or a Walgreens. So we've got to stay up to beat on those things because that's what their expectation is.
And now to do that, to get the business to a point where you are able to, um, have PayPal on the site and accept these different what's that been like for you to get Mattress Direct to that point where, you have all these options?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. There's pieces of this that we wanted years before we're able to even get them done. And part of it's just a technology piece. What can you afford? What can you not? and then what are your partners bringing to the table? So PayPal is something we wanted on the website with our previous website, and we could never figure out how to get it all configured, but yet Nationwide was able to help us do that. So with Nationwide, we were able to do that technology we weren't able to do before. When Apple came along and opened their stores and they didn't have desk anymore and they're checking everybody on a tablet, right? We looked at that and went, that's amazing. Let's try that. But we tried it with a computer at a standing up desk versus actually doing it over on the mattress. And it didn't work very well. So we had to take a step backwards and go, okay, we still need the desk because people need to be able to sit down. But now Stores is rolling out something called Next Gen. And with Next Gen, you can use a tablet. You can be laying on the bed next to a customer and ring them out. So that's something we'll be unveiling hopefully by Labor Day, where we'll be able to take credit card purchases on a tablet, sitting on the bed next to the desk, and never go to the desk.
It's like you're at home anyway. It's just like at bed at night scrolling Amazon.
That's right. Yeah. So, and that's something, again, we tried before and couldn't get off the ground on our own. Wow. But Stores brought it to the table, and they've been able to test it and do it. And so now we're able to do it. So, hopefully you're working with vendors like a Nationwide, like a Wells Fargo, like a Stores, who are staying on top of these technologies. You know what I mean? And it's interesting. Someone asked me the other day, like, how's AI influencing your business and how are you utilizing AI? And the most ways we're using AI is through our partners. Dispatch Track right now, which is our delivery software, is using AI in some really creative ways, and it's helping us. So we're utilizing AI, but we didn't build the technology. We're just harnessing the technology someone else built. So.
No, that's awesome. Cool to hear. And I feel like we could talk for another hour on all the things you guys are doing. Awesome. And maybe we will. Maybe we'll reconnect at prime time and do that. But I want to be cognizant of your time. And I know you have a busy schedule and plenty to do, but we'll be sure to check back in. This was awesome. It was great to catch up with you and learn a little bit about the business and see what you guys are doing well. Sounds like, heck, just the last 23 years, the way you guys have grown, it's a success story in and of itself. So we have plenty more to dive into with you in the future. So, Mr. Burns.
I appreciate that, Rob. Anything we can do to help Nationwide, it's a great organization with a lot of like-minded retailers. And, that's one thing I've always enjoyed about Nationwide is it's helping small business. And that's what we are. We're small business. So anything we can do to help, we always want to.
Awesome. We appreciate it. And like I said, look forward to catching up down the line.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Awesome. And thanks again to Lee. Like I said, so many, it's neat to see him and his company tap into so many different aspects of consumer financing, from he mentioned the waterfall programs that are out there, to just adding something simple like adding PayPal to the website and how it's impacted the business and really been a business driver for them, which I guess you kind of expect, right? You hope that happens, but, seeing it actually come to fruition and that type of program really have a benefit to what they're doing, still awesome to hear. So appreciate him sharing all that and diving into it with us. And as always, appreciate you listening to the Independent Thinking Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.